Welcome to the Chapter 3 Stigma Podcast. This podcast was created to be there for any individual who feels that they are at a low point in life and are confused, seemingly alone, and helpless in their situation. I am a recovering alcoholic, and I felt this way too, until I sat across the table from another addict who shared his story and made me realize that I was not alone in my struggles. My life was saved by this realization, and I hope to help anyone struggling by sharing my story to show you that you are not alone and that life can contain unbelievable riches and meaning. Welcome. I am glad you are here. All right. Hey, folks. Welcome back to the podcast. And I should say maybe we're back. This is the third go that Alyssa and I have had to open this podcast up. We are a little bit out of practice ourselves. And I think maybe a touch overthinking it. And that might be stemming from, I don't know, nerves or just we haven't... What's that?
The topic of today.
The topic of today, yeah. So the last podcast episode was at the beginning of June 5th, and our journey in our lives has truly transformed since then. So I do want to recognize I, even myself, find it fairly uncomfortable, or I don't know how to navigate the conversation when someone I know or love who is an addict disappears for a while. They stop posting through the same channels that they might have frequented and things like that, or you just stop hearing from them on text message. So first and foremost, we're doing well. It's been a lot of continued work for us as a family over the summer, and we'll kind of detail some of that. But and then we do have, I keep saying we, because I feel like this is like a collective body of work. But there's a lot of exciting things that are coming down the pipeline for the podcast and with the book launch, and a lot of just unexpected and different projects that have cropped up as a piece of this broader body of work. So it's been an exciting summer. It's been one of a lot of reflection. It's been one of continued work and grief and healing, as joyous as our life is and has become. Life continues to be life. And so, yeah, I think the place to start is actually reflecting back to about a year ago, and the point in time when Alyssa found out that she was pregnant. So, Alyssa, do you want to kind of pick it up from there?
Sure, I can pick it up from there. So yeah, about a year ago, like right around now, which is early October, we, had started thinking about like, well, do we want to be trying to grow our family again? And we had been given the green light from the doctors. And, so starting actually in June, a year ago in June, we had been given the green light, and so we were trying, and at first we were getting a lot of negatives and a lot of no's, and then come October we got a positive test, and this was the first time that I've actually taken a pregnancy test with Kyle in the space with me. That was, first of all, a difference. One, because when we found out we were pregnant with our oldest, Kyle was going through a rough time at that point. He was really in his head and struggling with alcohol and in and out of like the cycles of difficulty that you would go through, or periods of sobriety, or you're hungover trying to come off of a bender. And so anyways, I had done that one by myself it was kind of a fun surprise too. That was our goal, with the first kid. It was like, oh, it'd be kind of fun to have it be a surprise. And then with our second child, Lucy, Kyle was at rehab when I found out that I was pregnant with her. And so that was its own layer of difficult and scary in some ways. And also, I mean, I was alone. There wasn't an option to have him around. So this third go around, I think we were, we've learned a lot over the last year in terms of why we are a team and how we are a team. And with every step of things with Lucy, we were together. And so that is how we wanted to start this next journey. So every time I took a test, Kyle was there. And it was a struggle at first because we were really concerned about, like, are we taking advantage or utilizing the gift that Lucy gave us by the way that she came into the world, in the fact that I would have a shorter timeline in terms of when we could start trying again. And so we were a little frustrated with that. But come October last year, we were in our house. We were alone. Our son either wasn't awake yet or was at daycare. I can't even remember now. It might have been like one of my off days from work. Mm-hmm. And I took a test. And the first test that I took, we had no response on it. It was just blank. And it was like, well, that's confusing. So I was like, this just doesn't seem right. And so we took a second one, and it was very obvious that I was pregnant at that point.
Yeah. And Alyssa's doctor from Minnesota had told us that after we had lost Lucy, I think it was 4 weeks after, we had a appointment with her that wound up really just being a therapy session for everyone, just to kind of come back together and talk. And she told us, you're going to be physically ready before you're emotionally ready. And that held true. I think we wanted to pretend a little bit that we were emotionally prepared for another child, and the desire was there. The desire was there to grow our family. But the thing I'll never forget, when we did get the positive, and I don't mean to linger too much on it, but it really was like the start of the journey and a whole new set of learnings. That's honestly like informed my own and continued recovery journey and just how we show up together. But the exhilaration of seeing a positive after months of trying and anticipation and thinking about it, and then the immediate crash of guilt. And I mean, we wound up
sitting in our room crying.
Yeah, it was within 1 or 2 seconds of seeing the positive that we kind of shouted out in joy, and then totally flipped around and were crying, because at least the thoughts that were going through my head were, am I a bad parent? Am I trying to replace what we lost in Lucy? And just wondering how another child potentially coming into the world would change the way that we felt her presence up to that point, and everything associated with what we had walked in terms of the grief journey with her. Like, just how does that change it? And I never anticipated that. So it was interesting, because it was those doctors' words really stuck with us, but I don't think I really felt it or experienced it until the 2 seconds after seeing the positive. Mm-hmm.
I think that we were also just incredibly cautious in terms of, like, do we start to get excited about something because we have a long road ahead of us?
Well, and do you want to detail?
Yeah. So I was just going to segue into, you wait a month or whatever, you go to your first doctor's appointment. That's how it works with my doctor, at least. We go in, the doctor, is congratulating us, does all the normal things.
We talked about Lucy a long time.
We talked about Lucy. We we were able to see the baby and hear the heartbeat. It was actually probably the first or second day that this baby's heart would have started beating, according to where we were gestationally. We actually did get to go in a touch early too, because of having had a loss. And so that was a little bit unique to see such a small baby. And our doctor reassured us, we can follow the very like standard path of monitoring for this baby, because everything that happened last time was spontaneous. It's not an ongoing risk.
Meaning we would only come in for appointments every, whatever it is, 6 weeks, month to 6 weeks, and just get the routine care associated with it.
Routine ultrasounds,
which was a surprise for us, a welcome surprise. It was kind of relieving that like, we don't have to go back to the specialist. We don't have to be seen at a high frequency.
Right.
And then
we're not a high risk, essentially, is what that said. And then like, I don't know, 4 hours later, I got my blood test results back, and I'm going to try to keep this as what was interesting from my perspective. Let's stay broad with it, but like you got them on the computer, right? And you started I remember watching you on the computer and almost growing like a little bit worried and flustered. And I'm like, what? No. I think I told you, like, you are looking into this. You're thinking way too much. Just kind of walk away, let it be. Well, my science brain was like, nope. I generally know what these words mean. Something like we're getting a positive where we don't want to
see that.
And so then the next morning I heard from my doctor, and he said, you actually have your body's having an immune response to this new pregnancy. It's probably something related to your last pregnancy, so you're going to have to see the specialist.
But
again.
Unrelated to Lucy's genetic condition. It was So we were back. We went back to the specialist, and it was pretty surreal. I don't know, sitting in the waiting room again.
Yep, definitely, and it was emotional, just like having to walk back through those doors, knowing where the last time we had walked out of those doors was into the unknown of what was coming next. It was like I was just entering a little ways into my third trimester, and we were headed to Minnesota. That was the last time we had been there. And so this was definitely emotional. We basically were told by the team there, we will do whatever we need to do to make you guys feel comfortable about this next pregnancy. Which was amazing. It was, I mean, we, for better or worse, we knew the care team pretty well by the time it was all done. And everyone made us feel really comfortable, which was incredible. And we'll kind of keep it short in terms of what all went on through this, but one of the nice things, or one of the fun things that we got to do with this pregnancy was we didn't find out the gender. I would say that was the most meaningful.
We were basically to monitor for this health concern we were watching. It was every 1 to 2 weeks we were going in to look at an ultrasound, get some readings and things like that. And so we have become pretty savvy at reading them, and so we know when to look away. Again, the staff knew that we didn't want to know, and
we walked into every ultrasound appointment. It was basically like, "Hi, we're the Zabrowskis, and we don't know the gender of this baby still." So,
one of the things that we talked about leading up to the birth was, what is our reaction going to be if it's a girl, and what is our reaction going to be if it's a boy? And just truly not really knowing. And I think this, actually thinking about it in terms of where I've come in regards to like thought pattern and just the recovery practices, that would have really driven me mad, wanting to know, really like wanting to control and feel like I was in control. And I think we did a pretty good job of recognizing that there's probably going to be a different reaction if it's a boy versus a girl. Who's to say, really? It's almost like we need to kind of wait for the moment. I think for the most part, both of us were just so focused on desiring just a healthy child, a healthy pregnancy. And so
even our doctors would, my doctor in particular would be like, do we know the gender today?
Yeah.
And it was like, nope, we still don't know. And do you want to just find out? We could just find out today. He's like, well, what do you want the baby to be? And my response every time was, I just want the baby to be healthy enough that they can come home.
Yeah.
He or she can come home.
And I think that's the major thing that we saw in the timeline of the pregnancy was a lot of the fears that came up that we lived through with Lucy. And we got asked about it numerous times, like, when are you going to allow yourselves to be excited? You know, like we would talk to strangers or even some more distant friends would see us and it's like, oh, you guys got to be so excited. And it was just kind of like, yeah. But when we were talking with
I
doctors,
dealt with it a lot at work too.
Yeah,
I would say.
I'm sure.
Just like a lot of people who were talking, who would ask, just like, you know, making small talk. So that was difficult.
We could be a little more honest with like our counselor and doctors on our care team or care team members, I should say. And it's like, we were honest that it was really hard for us to get excited.
Especially, I would say, in knowing that there was any kind of health risk potentially going on with the pregnancy. I remember at one point just getting, and it was before we really had the details of what this immune response could potentially do. I remember just being so concerned of like, is my heart capable of potentially going through a difficult scenario again? And just like not knowing, or kind of questioning that. I don't know if you felt that way too, but
yeah, it was the idea. I've said it before, but the way I sort of think about it is, you know, going through hardship, in enduring suffering, there is no dues paid notice that you receive from life, that you receive from God. And so understanding that we could have to travel that road again, it was burdensome for sure. And I think that led to the protectionism over ourselves, and which was the dampening of excitement. I mean, we didn't organize the baby's room until 4 days before your planned and scheduled induction.
Yep.
Like there was some control at the end of this pregnancy in terms of when the baby was going to show up. And despite that, we kept putting it off. The room was a storage room for.
Yeah, it was a storage room. It was like we finally had to move
stuff.
Yeah, we had Lucy's items in there. Even still, we have some little memories of her in there as well. But like, I had basically picked everything out online, or that was my goal. Was like, I'm gonna have a boy look going. I'll have a girl look going, and then once we find out, I'll just hit order on anything that we wanted to purchase, and we'll go from there. Well, we kind of got down to the end, and it was like, I don't know if that's gonna work out. Like, we at least need a changing table for this baby. Like we had, and of course, the baby was going to be sleeping in our room for a while, so we really had no rush on it. And I'm so glad, honestly, that we did things the way we did. It was a little hectic and whatnot at the end there, but I wouldn't change it. I think that for our own mindsets, it was the best way of handling it.
Yeah, I think that in part shows some of the improvements that have come into our life is we were forgiving of ourselves. Like I don't know that the way we handled it and walked through it was perfect, but who really cares about perfection? It, we handled it as best as we could. And I think we continued to talk about it and to address the things that were difficult for us, that we were fearing. And, it was very similar to the time after losing Lucy, where there would be days when one of us was really struggling and the other one, even though they were going through their own questions and difficulties, they kind of became the rock for that day, relatively speaking. And there was definitely that dynamic that came about because we were open for a lot of, and again, not perfect, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
There was a couple parts that were really wonderful about having to go through the specialists again. One of them being that we really had a good understanding of what this baby's body structure looked like. There was comments made of this baby has a really strong heart, or a really beautiful heart.
Well,
I
because
think
we had a lot of
Lucy's heart concerns, that was reassuring.
Yep.
I would say a lot of it was just really reassuring for us. And then at the end, towards the end of the pregnancy, they switch over from doing ultrasounds to doing the non-stress tests where you get to listen to the heartbeat, kind of similar to what they do during a delivery. Essentially, which at first was really difficult because we had some stressful for parents non-stress tests. And when we were pregnant with Lucy. And so that was almost therapeutic to go through and kind of overcome that hurdle of having to listen to that. Yep, exposure therapy.
Exposure to something that was fearful and a difficult memory.
Okay, so then in the end, we ended up the doctors made the decision that we were doing a scheduled induction for this baby. They, based upon this immune response, the best thing to do was to deliver around 38 weeks.
Yep.
And so we had a slightly early delivery. We also were told this baby was quite large. So I was very grateful that 38 weeks was all they were making me go to. And especially after having like back-to-back pregnancies, more or less. I mean, there was 17 and a half months between deliveries. That's that was pretty tight turnaround time for me. It felt like, especially after everything I endured with Lucy's pregnancy. So we were excited. And we didn't know the gender still.
And what thoughts or feelings did you have in the moments after the birth? Well,
I would say I mean, it was a wild delivery. We won't get into the details of it other than to say I don't think I'll ever do an epidural again. I'm basically just one of those people who's got to do it the natural way. And so I feel like baby came and I saw it in pictures more than remembered feeling it, but I was smiling from ear to ear. I was just like elated that we had delivered this baby, and the baby was making noise, warm on my chest, and your response, I do remember. Do you want to explain your response? Or do you want me to?
I cried a lot, if that's what you're getting at.
Yes, Kyle was very emotional. He was crying. He was crying to the point where he ended up leaving the hospital with a little bit of an eye infection. But it was really sweet, honestly. Like, to see the emotion that you maybe didn't have that depth of ability to have when we had Grant, and to be in like this more like standard scenario, if you will, was just amazing. And so baby's on my chest, and I said to Kyle, what do we have?
It kind of took a while to figure out boy or girl. Well, I mean, the moments that you might not remember, to me it felt like there was a significant amount of time before the baby started crying and breathing. And one of the times that we had been asked about when are you going to allow yourself to feel excited, to experience something more than, I guess, concern. One of my responses was when the first cry happens, and it was kind of tongue in cheek, but yeah, in that moment I realized how much I was holding out for that sound and for that experience. And it took a little while. And the nurses didn't seem concerned about it.
Yeah.
And
Like,
I finally said
yeah.
something, and one of the nurses goes, "Oh, we'll get," like, she starts patting the baby's back, and then boom, a cry comes out, and I just
waterworks.
lost it. Yeah, that's so there was that buildup aspect to it too. But one of the things that I had that, like, it has taught me a lot, and it was both really difficult to experience, but also beautiful at the same time. It was the first time getting to hold our son and just looking at him, and the feeling.
You're talking about Grant?
No. Our second son here. The first time I held him, the feeling that I've had with every one of our kids is a realization that my capacity for love grows. It grows for you every time. It has grown for each of our children. And what I realized looking at our son for the first time, and again, it was comforting and difficult to realize, was a new capacity grew for him, but there was a void. It was a more felt void for Lucy, in that I had love to express to someone that I couldn't touch, that I couldn't hold. And realizing that, that space is really only for Lucy. And understanding that I'm just going to have to figure out how to live with that, and really how we are going to have to figure out to live with that. Because, after talking it through, I know you feel the same. It's just, it's this weird sensation, but like I guess the comforting aspect of it is like knowing that that's there for her, and just that it even grew in the moment that I held our son. That was completely unexpected for me. And
yeah, so as Kyle has said, we had a second boy, and Grant was so excited because he really wanted a brother. He has very much been like girl boy, didn't really care throughout the pregnancy. The last week before our son was born, Grant was like, well, it's a boy. And we said, well, why do you think it's a boy? And he said he had a very logical 3.5-year-old answer. And that was, well, there will be 3 girls in our family, meaning myself, Lucy, and our sweet, sweet dog, Sage. And then there will be 3 boys in our family, meaning Kyle, Grant, and the new baby. Very logical of him, I would say.
yeah.
And then we got to introduce him to the baby. This baby was unnamed for many hours too, which was kind of a funny thing, because we obviously knew Lucy's name, and then for Grant we had his name picked out right away. And so we were really kind of toiling over what to do here. But Kyle, do you want to explain how we introduced Grant to the baby?
Well, we basically let him pick.
Well, we did, but I was going to say how you went out and you got him. And okay, I guess I'm telling this part. So we got to a recovery room. Grant got to the hospital. My parents were in town watching him. And Kyle came out of the maternity ward, I guess you could say, and just had the biggest smile on his face, is how my parents have described it. And then got down on a knee and grabbed Grant, gave him a big hug. And then they came back to the room, and I was holding the baby, and Grant came over and he figured out it was a boy, which was really exciting for him.
Yeah. Knew right away.
Yep. He didn't even question it. He's like,
Yeah.
it's a boy. It's like, oh, yeah, you're right. We didn't have to show you anything special. You got it. And then we were chatting with him and he said, well, what's the baby's name? He said, well, we haven't decided yet. And he said, well, we need to figure out a name for this baby. Again, really cute 3.5-year-old moment. And just like for him to, you know, get to see his next sibling was so exciting. And so then we had narrowed it down to 3 names at this point. And we gave Grant the 3 names. And he emphatically, I believe is the word you've used many times, Kyle, said his name is Eric. And so that was it.
Yeah. And one of the unanticipated parts of all of this was watching and realizing how much Grant longed to be a brother just as much as we longed to be a parent to Lucy. I mean, he was incredible. He has continued to be incredible, but it really, I mean, just the first few moments in the hospital made me realize how much we might have even overlooked Grant's grief. Like he probably wasn't able to express it to us fully, but seeing him step into that role of older brother with another sibling that he could touch, that he could make faces at. And again, that like continues to this day is just, it really showed me how much he longed for it, how much more he longed for it than I think I really gave him credit for. And you know, for me, that's amazing. That's amazing to think about what that means. He understood as a 2-year-old, losing a sister, and what it means and what it meant and what it means to him to be an older brother. So it's really been incredible to see those two.
As you were talking there, it just made me think of how he was very enthusiastic those first couple days once we were home from the hospital. And he was like,
he picked him out of the bassinet one time and without us up there and carried him to the top of the stairs.
Yeah, he sprinted ahead of me like 30 seconds off, you know, as I'm like so slowly excited, making my way up the stairs, and he's speeding right on up. And by the time I got to the top of the stairs, he was in the hallway with Eric. Yeah. I was like, oh, gosh. Okay, you did a little more than we asked, and we're appreciative, but like, let's not do that again, maybe. So, we actually were only in the hospital for 30 hours or something. Yep. It was not very long, and we were just so excited to be able to leave and to bring a baby into our house. Yeah. So much so that we were like, we just want to do it like all by ourselves. We had the house just quiet, and it was just Kyle and I entering in, and I don't know, it just felt, I don't know, that was my exhale. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I mean, I think as parents, you know, now you're constantly going to live with concern and understanding about the reality of life and loss. But yeah, describing it as an exhale is really appropriate. And it's been, from my perspective, it's been amazing to partake in and guide and be a part of our family's journey of this new normal. You know, we talked a lot about searching for the new normal after a loss, and then going through the journey of like really intense grief, but is really similar in finding this new normal as a family. And there's a lot of joyous moments with it. There's hardship still, but to be able, from my perspective, to feel like a more present and active participant in it is it's been beautiful. I mean, it's this summer, and again, like purposefully step back. We didn't really put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And maybe there are instances where we can kind of laugh at that with things that have happened this summer. But we really tried to just allow ourselves to experience whatever it was that was going to allow our family to, come into being in our new form in our home. Mm-hmm. And it's been a really meaningful time period for us in that regard. And I feel lucky that we were able to do it.
Absolutely. I would say, again, so what we did with Grant when we had him was we stacked our time off so that we could extend as long as possible before he had to start daycare. And for
staggered, you mean?
Yeah, so we stacked them. So I took my time and then you took your time afterwards. Yep. So with Eric then, we chose to take our time off together. And I think that really just speaks to how our mindset has shifted and how that quality of time and mm-hmm. doing it together was just so important to us, because we're a team. And so that has been a big part of it. I do want to touch really briefly on the fact that going back to the gender piece of it. And I think that was a piece of grief that we didn't know what it was going to be like once mm-hmm. we did finally know who Eric was. And really it happened within a few days after being home. Just out of nowhere, I burst into tears because, you're postpartum and it's tough. There's a lot of emotions, but it was I'm having an identity crisis a little bit. And it was very much related to this shift in terms of what the outside world is going to see of our family mm-hmm. versus what our hearts feel. Mm-hmm. And I would say our hearts feel like we have 3 children and we have 2 sons and 1 daughter. And the outside world is going to see we have 2 children and they're both boys. And isn't your household crazy because you have boys and everyone equates that way? And, or it seems like that would be the case. And so it was really just about this, well, how do we really feel? Yeah. And how do we still keep her memory alive and present with us? And, in meeting new people or in discussing it with people, what does that look like? And mm-hmm. so that, it's just a new piece of navigation for us. And it was a piece of grief that I don't think that we necessarily anticipated.
No.
And so I guess that was surprising.
Yeah. And I think one thing I'm grateful for about our journey that we've walked together leading up to Eric's birth and kind of this reopening of grief and new avenues of grief and just figuring things out. Our increased ability to identify, recognize, and then communicate, maybe not always perfectly in the moment, but eventually getting to a point of being able to talk about the core thing that is hurting you or causing you to feel off or, mm-hmm. Just why do I feel this little sense of loss when I'm looking at, our 2 sons playing, our oldest engaging with our youngest in such a beautiful way. And the way I've said it is I feel like a girl dad, and I love the role of the boy dad, the wrestling with Grant, I mean, it's not much with Eric right now, right? But it's working up the smiles and just getting to hold him at the dinner table and kind of starting to watch him participate or just watch. It's so enjoyable. And there's those aspects, but there's this longing for just those things that come along or seemingly come along with feminine
energy that girls bring.
Yeah, I don't know. It's strange. And it's strange and like I'm kind of self-conscious. It's like, gosh, am I crazy about this? But then I talk to people who get it, who have experienced it, and so I know I'm not off base in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was one day where we had a couple of things that were very like boy household moments.
Yeah.
And
Messy
I
and
came
chaotic.
down the stairs and was just like practically in tears to Kyle, like, I live in a house full of animals. It's like, yes. And how blessed am I that I have a house full of anything.
Yep.
So that was, just kind of a switch of that. And I think the other thing too is, people will refer to, second child, and it's like, well, technically not second child, but you don't correct in those situations. It's just is what it is.
One of the responses I've found is my go-to that is both staying true, as well as doesn't make other people uncomfortable. Not because that's my goal, but it's like sometimes it's not worth engaging and diving in. They ask about children, and it's like, we got 2 boys at home, and
right. Yep.
That's that feels like a way to be honest about it, to
still honor
Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I have had some people kind of like give you a bit of a glance, and it's like, okay, are we opening this door? Like, again, we've talked about that ability to kind of make a call looking at someone. Sure. And we continue to be able to have conversations about her, which is great. But man, again, that initial fear of like, are we bad parents trying to replace her? I think for me, the most heartwarming aspect was what I felt that first time holding Eric and being like, there is no replacing her. And we are actually actively getting called from the baby monitor. So I'm not sure if that's going to be picked up, but
whoa.
All right. So that's that's going to be our curtain call. I guess we'll wrap it.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to kind of wrap this up with is, I was kind of thinking of walking away from the podcast, and on one of our walks every day. Yeah. Alyssa, just shut it off. Yep. It'll be fine. Alyssa wound up saying, like, very encouragingly, like, you should do it. You should bring it back. I've worked over the summer months to finish up the book that I've written that really covers the timeline of me falling into the battle of alcoholism, entering recovery, and then Lucy's story. And so with that, and I have had a lot of people reach out, and so I'm not sure exactly what the continuation of this podcast and body of work looks like, but I'm going to pick up writing on the Substack page again, which, if you're interested in following along and you don't, you can just go to Substack, Substack. It is Chapter 3 Stigma, just like the podcast. I plan on putting 2 to 3 podcasts out a month. I actually think it will be more interview style, or interview conversations. Again, a lot of the work that I want to do is just how can we as individuals work on ourselves, work on our shortcomings with the forgiveness and grace required to make that progress every single day. Avoid working in bursts of energy and then falling down like I did time and time again, and just strip away really the fear and the stigma associated with talking about our not only addictions, but any shortcomings that we're fearful of showing the world or admitting, and because we don't admit it, a lot of times we don't work on it, or we make excuses for other root causes. And so I have a lot of individuals who have really opened up to me in the past few months. Gonna get them on the show here. Again, I think it'll be every 2 to 3 episodes every month. So not weekly as it had been in the past, but excited to start that up. Again, this is a really meaningful body of work, honestly, for myself and the continuation of my recovery, and just hoping to help anyone out there who is, feeling lost, confused, hurt, like they're suffering for no meaning. So thank you all for joining us. Alyssa's back. Thank you very much. I think the mic's going to work if you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
And as always, I love you.
I love you too.
Take care, all. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with others who might find it impactful, and give us a rating through your streaming platform of choice. Ratings and comments help spread the work to others who are desperately searching for a solution. This simple action could have profound impacts on the lives of others. My hope is that my story can help those who feel alone in their struggles with addiction or any other aspects of life. You can follow us on social media at Chapter 3 Stigma on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to reach out with a message through one of those channels, I will respond and let you know that you are not alone. All the best, you are loved, and know that this life is full of abundant joy and wonder, and is worth every struggle and bit of suffering you must endure. Until next time.